attending today's press briefing. So today we will talk about TRA, an event taking place in Lisbon from the 14th to the 17th of November. Today we have 3 speakers that I'm happy to introduce. So starting from here, Marta, she works for ANI, a Portuguese entity that is leading this consortium. Next to her, Luis is a colleague of Marta, and they will both do a presentation about how this conference will work, the content, the agenda, the different partners, because the conference you will see has partners as well from Brussels that are both for content but also sponsors. And next to Luis, we have Patrick, who works at the European Commission, DG Research and Innovation, senior policy officer, and is known as Monsieur TRA because he's here since the beginning. So since 2006, he's involved in this project, which was the first edition of TRA. So I propose that you start, Patrick. You will have to use the mic so that Kostis and Marta follow our presentation. So there you go.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for you. Can you hear me over there in Greece?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, Patrick.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Hello from Greece.
Good afternoon, Grace. Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind introduction, Antonio. So I would like to say a few words about TRA, to tell me this history of this important conference for the Commission. TRA stands, first of all, for the Transport Research Arena. So it's an arena on transport research, supporting the transport policy in particular. It started the first time, as you mentioned, in 2006, a long time ago. It started by a fully road transport research conference. From time to time, this biannual conference became a multimodal conference. This is to say that it tackled all transport modes, going from road, rail, maritime, aviation, but also what is important, cross-modal aspects, being logistics or urban mobility, all things which can cover different transport modes. And from that time, we were organizing this conference together with the Commission as a co-organizer of the conference on the local host. So it started in Sweden, and the next one will be indeed in Portugal, in the nice city of Lisbon. What is important to say is that this conference is also organized with the support of different stakeholders from different transport modes. So we have the so-called European Technology Platform, which are supporting the conference. So you have, I will not mention all of them, but you have AirTrack for road transport, ERAC for rail transport. You have another one, ACARE for aeronautics. I should not forget any. There is ALICE for logistics, ECTP, which is a construction platforms. And I think I didn't forget any technology platforms. I would like to say now why TRA is important for the Commission, why we organize this conference. We think that it offers a great venue for all type of person involved in transport, not only the researcher, but also the policymakers and the industry. So you have always these 3 types of researchers which are involved in TRA, which make it unique in Europe: researchers, industry, and policymakers. So the idea is really to meet all these people all together. That's why TRA for us is more than a conference, it's more than an arena where all these stakeholders can meet and discuss together and take decisions on the way forward in the field of research and innovation, of course. Another something important I would like to mention to you as well is the collaboration of challenges that we would like to support with this conference and to support the policy, and in particular the transport policy. The main theme of TRA this year will be different every day. So it will be the first day dedicated to smart solution and society. So with that, we would like to support, of course, Digital Europe, intelligent transport systems, but also all activities related to new field like Internet of Things, but also AI, also cooperative and collaborative mobility with all transport modes, but also, which is very important, also in the new Commission agenda, inclusiveness and societal acceptance of the new technologies that we are developing. On day 2, the second day of the conference, the theme is very at the heart of the transport policy, which is green mobility and decarbonization. So there, indeed, it will support directly the Green Deal on the Fit for 55 activities. So we will support directly these activities, but also in order to push for zero-emission vehicles or zero-emission planes or zero-emission boats. So this is the idea on rail systems. On the third day, we will look for innovative infrastructure for Europe in 2030. So there we would like to link transport infrastructure on research. And there it is to support in particular the development of the so-called TNT, Trans-European Transport Networks, which is managed by our colleague from DG Mobility and Transport. And there we would like to show the link between research and implementation and deployment in the field of transport infrastructure in particular. On the last day will be devoted to policies and economics for competitive Europe. So there, the idea is really to discuss and foresee the discussion on the support of the competitiveness of the European industry, and also to discuss what we have developed within Horizon Europe, the so-called public-private partnerships, which will support the work between the industry on one side and the Commission on the other side to support transport technology in different sectors. And finally, what is important with these different sessions on different days that will be highlighted also by my colleagues from ANE who are coordinating the conference, is that all that will support the strategy for transport and mobility, which was published already 2 years ago, which is a strategy for smart and sustainable transport. And there, inside this strategy, you have different flagships. On all these flagships, on the milestone, if you want, on transport policy will be highlighted through discussion in different type of session during the conference. So this is quite important. And to finish, I would like to say also that there will be an important TRA award that we'll give during the conference. It's called TRA Award. So we intend to have young researchers coming to TRA, as it is European Year of Youth. We like to, as our commissioner, Maia Gabriel is not only responsible for research, but also for education. We think it is important to highlight that in particular. So we will invite, after a strong selection, 15 key researchers from being MSc or PhD students in the different transport sectors to present their studies, and we'll give them the awards during TRA on the first day of TRA. There will be, in addition, another award that we could mention is for senior researcher, which have been involved for a long time in EU-funded project from Horizon 2020, our research framework programs, and now on Horizon Europe, the new framework program for research and innovation. And finally, just to say, there will be also an important exhibition. Suppose you will come back to that, Luis and Marta, which will be important to highlight important activities, in particular from the Commission side. There will be a kind of EU village where we will present different demonstration activities, different prototypes on different transport sectors, so some demonstration activities, and it will be surrounded with our different partnerships that we'll have on the different transport sectors. But I can give you more detail if you want later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Perhaps one thing, because we are in a press briefing and it's not a formal one. So if you have already questions, feel free to drop them instead of compiling all of them and asking questions in the end. Luis and Marta will follow with a more real and rather presentation. But if you have questions, especially now that we have someone here from the Commission, feel free. So I don't know if you have already any questions, otherwise we proceed. Yeah.
Thanks for that overview. Yeah, my name's Sean Carroll from Euractiv. Maybe just in terms of the event program, so it's very wide ranging. There's lots of different mobility modes being addressed. Because it is so wide ranging, I was wondering if you could kind of concretely sum up what you're hoping from the Commission's perspective, what you're hoping that the event will achieve, what you will get out of the event and how it will feed into the Commission's thinking. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Indeed, all transport mode are working a little bit in a silo, and especially in transport research. So the idea really there is to make the synergies and combination between the different transport sectors. If I want to give an example, in the field of transport automation, you have a lot of development which have been done in the field of automotive, with new shuttles going without drivers. But a lot of research have been done already a long time ago in the aeronautic sector. So the idea would be to combine different knowledge and to discuss that together in different sessions, and then to give some recommendation for future research activities in the different. So being in, I mentioned the one on automation, but it can be on road safety, it can be on different type of activity, and decarbonization, of course, because there is a lot of synergies that can be done between transport modes. So I think it's a unique opportunity for the people and the researchers to meet together and to find solutions that could come from one mode to another. So it's a little bit the idea behind this conference, which is multimodal by essence. But of course, there will be different sessions per mode, of course, for different stakeholders who will come there. But the idea is really this aspect, to have a multimodal conference. The open to two questions.
Hi. Could you also, following his comment, could you be a little bit more precise, for example, in terms of green mobility? Because I mean, we are dealing with a urgent situation in terms of curbing emissions. What would you like to see at the end of this conference?
Thank you. In fact, green mobility and decarbonization in one of the key, as I mentioned, one of the key elements of the conference. And there we will have discussion on different themes. The first one that I could mention, it will be on day 2 of the conference, which will be on green mobility and decarbonization. We'll tackle aspects like boosting the uptake of zero-emission vehicles. So when I say vehicles, include vessels, of course. So this is really as a flagship of the strategy for smart and sustainable mobility. It's one of the main flagships to have cars without engines, powertrain, by 2030. So I think with Fit for 55. So it is clearly the objective is to discuss this type of activities, also to discuss low carbon fuels. This is also important in this time of energy problems. And then there is also something very important, I suppose, is that we have launched some missions. Maybe you have heard about that, cities. There is a cities mission, which aim to have by 2030, 100 neutral carbon neutral cities by 2030. So it's quite challenging. And we are managing these activities in DG Research and Innovation with many other DGs, of course. And the idea is to discuss these activities during the conference as well. And we will invite several mayors, including Lisbon, hopefully, and other mayors from other cities, and to discuss how to implement that. We are preparing at the moment so-called climate city contract, and the idea is really to discuss with some city authorities which will be present this type of activities. The third activity that we'd like to discuss during links to decarbonization or greening, if you want, will be to discuss innovative concern activities for zero-emission mobility and for people and logistics. So it's more on the services. I mentioned the technology, first of all, zero-emission vehicles, and there we'd like to discuss more the services, with the companies, for example, in the field of logistics. When you go to go from one point to another, the idea not only using road transport, but as much as possible to shift maybe to a more sustainable mode of. So the idea would be to discuss that as well, maybe by inland waterway, coastal shippings, or of course. And then the last leg could be done by trucks. But the idea is really to combine the different transport mode and to discuss this type of activities. This is the field of logistics, and we could do the same for people movements, of course.
Yeah, Fida. Please.
Media. And today it's a tourism day, World Tourism Day. And my question is about representation on tourism transport. In this event, do you have some companies or researcher in this sector? The second question is on different transport. Do you share air, road, and sea? Maybe you mentioned, but I didn't. Yeah, thank you.
On the first question, I will be very quick. In fact, to be honest, tourism is not so much included or involved for the time being, but it's surely an important element that we should consider. Also, because in the Parliament, we have the Transport of Tourism Committee. But it's true that tourism is not really, we support really, I would say, industry research on what we do in terms of Horizon Europe, but also in the past in Horizon 2020. And we support also development in activities in cities, for example. But tourism was not so much, except some exceptional cases, I would say. We didn't develop that so much, but it's a good point that we should consider, I suppose. On your second question, it was about the involvement of different transport modes. Yes, indeed, it's not, as I mentioned, it's not only a road transport conference, it's multimodal. So we intend to have involved in every session people from different stakeholders on transport modes. So it will be explained a bit later in detail, but in different sessions, each transport mode will be involved in a way or another. So the idea is really to make synergies, to create synergies, and to have them involved and discuss together, which is, I think, unique in this type of conference, because most of the conferences are really mini-modal, I would say. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
To give maybe the floor to Kostis, who has a question.
Yes, Patrick. On the third topic, you mentioned that they're going to be discussing transport, and I was wondering if new technologies like hydrogen and other clean fuels are going to be discussed, and especially now with in the current energy crisis, and given that climate is a priority in greening the cities. Is this going to be on the third day, basically focusing on new technologies like hydrogen and transport in the cities? Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for your question. I think it's a very important point. Hydrogen is very important. It was mentioned recently in the State of the Union speech of Ursula von der Leyen with the hydrogen valleys on the bank on hydrogen. And indeed, hydrogen will be part of the discussion during the conference. We have, as you may know, we have partnerships, joint undertaking on clean hydrogen. And they will be there also close to the Commission stand. And we'll have several sessions with speakers from this hydrogen to these different venues, and how to integrate that in the transport sector. Also that in transport, it's mostly, I would say, it is to be discussed, but it's mostly for heavy-duty trucks, I would say, or buses that it should be included, but it's also important for other transport modes, of course. But it is integrated, to make it short. Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody else has a question? Martin?
I just wondered if anyone of any particular personalities, if you like, from the EU side, commissioners, MEPs will be due to attend. And also, you say it's been going since 2006. I wonder, could you give, say, an example of a tangible result that's or a success story that's come out of one of the previous editions? I don't know if you've been involved all that time, but yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in fact, we intend to have I forget to mention that the TRA event is co-organized by the Commission, but the Commission is not only DG RTD, indeed, it's DG Mobility and Transport, so DG Move, where we are working closely together, and also the GRC, the Joint Research Center. So it's really these three DGs which are involved in the organization from the Commission side, and we have involved several of our agencies, of course. Having said that, we intend to have a high-level commissioner on the opening of the conference and one in the closing of the conference. So the idea, they have been invited, no answer yet, but we intend to have Commissioner Gabriel on the first day of the conference and Commissioner Valian on the closing of the conference. So Research and Innovation Commissioner and Transport Commissioner as the closing. And we intend also to have our Director Generals involved, so Enrico Lolei for DG Move on the first day. For DG Research Innovation, it's a bit more complicated, but because our Director General left and moved to Japan recently. So we intend to, it will be our DG or our new Director General coming also on the last day of the conference, but to confirm. On success story, yes, sorry, I forgot to mention, if I understood well your question, success story with regard to TRA, you mean events which happened in the past, huh? Yeah.
mention it, in particular. If not, it's okay, but I just wonder if there's anything, you know, from
Sure.
those previous.
In fact, the last edition was cancelled, unfortunately, for obvious reasons. It was 2020. It was supposed to be in Finland. Yes, so it was cancelled due to the pandemic. So we did virtually. We started to do it virtually. Also, it was cancelled 2 weeks before, you can imagine. So it was not easy. But the previous one was 2008, which was a great success. It was in Vienna, Austria. And there it was extremely good success. We had more than 300, 500 participants. And we had a very interesting discussion on all technology activity and also on demonstration activities, which were very mature at that time. So I mentioned previously automated vehicles. So we had tours with automated shuttles, you know, on the city and around the conference center. We had also activities on clean vehicles, clean buses. I remember it was clean hydrogen buses at that time. So this type of activity will happen again in Lisbon with new technologies and new activities. I can mention this time there will be interesting things around drones, which appear to be very dynamic, but we have to control them, of course, and use them properly. But especially in the Commission stand, we intend to have drones and activities. For example, we have an agency in Portugal called EMSA, European Maritime and Safety Agency, which is using drones, you know, for the ends of the seas. So we intend to explain how we can use that also maybe for other matters. So this is also type of activity we would discuss. For example, we could use this drone for city logistics, you know, to transport parcel in the city. But we have to see how this technology can be used or not and can be controlled, of course.
Okay.
Thanks, Eli Hajieva from Dialogue for Europe. You mentioned good examples of cars and of buses, but as it's about imagining mobility in the future, what would future aircrafts and vessels look like? Any particular examples you can give from the sector?
Not a specialist of this sector, you have seen maybe from what I answered, but I answered to you. Thank you very much for your question. Indeed, but what is important, maybe it could be hydrogen plane, maybe, so, or using biofuels. It's really something we are working on. We have a partnerships on aviation, on clean aviation, as you may know. So we're working really on these activities for clean aviation. So this is activities really in the next 20, 30 years. So, but we are investing in that. And in the field of waterborne is the same. There are two main domains, I would say. It's more linked to natural gas, etc., maybe hydrogen. So it could be also a solution. And what is interesting, there are also in the field, it's not energy, but in the field of maneuvering, etc., there are some projects looking for unmanned vehicles, so manned vessels. But it's mostly, I would say, in the ports area. So, but it's some solution that can be useful. It's already used and developed through a European project between islands. You mentioned tourism, so it's linked with tourism maybe to transport people between two islands in Denmark, which is an automated ships. So activities like that could be developed.
All right. Okay, because now we need to move on to the second part in order to make this complete. So, sir, if you don't mind, we proceed and then we do a second round of questions so that we can continue. So, Martin Luis will now proceed with the presentation. You start, Luis. There you go.
So thank you, Antonio. I start. So Patrick has already said almost everything. So I think we're done here. My name is Luís Maia. I work for the Portuguese National Innovation Agency, ANI. I'm here with my colleague, Marta Pinto. We both work at ANI. And here I'm going to show you a little presentation about the conference, building on what Patrick has already said. I think we're, yes, just going to project the slides. Yes. Okay. So maybe I can just start saying, okay, we already have it there. That so we ANI, we're the hosts of this conference. The 2022 edition is in Portugal. So it's hosted and organized by us in co-organization with the European Commission, of course, and also in cooperation with the 4 other Portuguese partners, which is IMT, the Institute for Mobility and Transport, the Consortium of Schools of Engineering, a consortium of universities of engineering in Portugal, the LINEC, the National Laboratory of Civil Engineering, and the Magellan consultancy, which is here, and many of you know, also based in Portugal and in Brussels, more in the part of communication. And this is all done together with the group of European technological platforms and associations that Patrick has already mentioned, namely, and I can give you the list, it's all on the website, by the way, but it's ACARE, ALICE, CEDAR, ECTP, AirTrack, AIRAC, ETRA, and Waterborne. It's a lot. It's 8 of them, but anyway, you can check on the website. And now maybe moving on to the presentation. I'll start with a video, promotional video we did about Lisbon. Maybe we start by showing you that, which I think one of the strong points of this conference is the fact that it is in Lisbon, which is a very the city that usually people like it a lot. So, and I think a very strong, tourism, and this is a strong point, I would say, of this year's edition, the host city. So I would think, okay, yes.
I'm very sorry. I have to stop the video. Be clear, you know, this is not my part.
Onde partiram navegadores em busca de outros mares, vão chegar especialistas de transportes e tecnologia de todo o mundo que procuram diariamente novas maneiras. Cada viagem tem um propósito: encurtar distâncias, ligar pessoas, matar saudades, conhecer novas culturas e locais. Em Portugal, podemos dizer que a ideia de viagem faz parte da nossa história. No século XV, olhamos para o mar como uma grande estrada que nos levaria a definir o mundo como um mapa global, unido por rotas que ainda hoje são utilizadas. No caminho para dar novos mundos ao mundo, desenhamos. Cada viagem tem um propósito: encurtar distâncias, ligar pessoas, matar saudades, conhecer novas culturas e locais. Em Portugal, podemos dizer que a ideia de viagem faz parte da nossa história. No século XV, olhamos para o mar como uma grande estrada que nos levaria a definir o mundo como um mapa global, unido por rotas que ainda hoje são utilizadas. No caminho para dar novos mundos ao mundo, desenhamos também a inovação. Criamos novos instrumentos e técnicas mais eficazes para chegarmos ao nosso destino. Hoje, à mesma cidade de onde partiram navegadores em busca de outros mares, vão chegar especialistas de transportes e tecnologia de todo o mundo que procuram diariamente novas maneiras de estarmos mais próximos de uma forma sustentável, conectada e competitiva. Lisboa dá as boas-vindas ao Transport Research Arena 2022. A TRA é a principal conferência europeia que reúne num único evento investigação, tecnologia e inovação aplicadas ao setor dos transportes. Durante 4 dias, vamos criar um fórum de intercâmbio de ideias entre investigadores, gestores, indústria, decisores políticos, empreendedores e investidores. Aqui serão abordados os principais temas e prioridades da União Europeia no domínio da investigação e inovação no setor dos transportes, explorando os mais recentes desenvolvimentos tecnológicos e industriais e a sua implementação e resultados em prol da competitividade europeia.
Lisboa é uma cidade com uma longa história de abertura internacional. A cidade de Lisboa, pelo seu caráter, tem necessariamente de ter um sistema de transportes que esteja como elemento central da qualidade de vida dos seus habitantes e dos seus visitantes. Assim, é normal que a cidade de Lisboa se sinta capaz e desejosa de acolher uma grande conferência internacional de investigação em transportes como é o TRA.
De forma a responder a este desafio, reunimos um consórcio de parceiros que juntos se empenham na criação de soluções inovadoras pensadas para uma Europa mais sustentável, mais competitiva e verdadeiramente ligada com o mundo. E Lisboa é esse ponto de ligação. Uma cidade vibrante e internacional, ao mesmo tempo acolhedora e contemporânea, que combina história com modernidade, arquitetura clássica com novas expressões artísticas, preços acessíveis com gastronomia internacionalmente reconhecida. O local perfeito para iniciar esta viagem. Junte-se a nós.
We hope that this video made you want to come to Lisbon in November. We would be happy to host you there. And maybe now we go back to the presentation in a minute. So I think we're almost there. Okay. Yes, yes, we can share the presentation and the video is embedded there. Falta maximizar. Okay, so building on what Patrick has already said, the transport research arena, maybe it's easier if I do it here, is the largest European research and technology conference on transport and mobility. It has been happening since 2006. Okay. And the main theme for this edition of 2022 is together reimagining mobility worldwide. And as probably you already know, the conference will take place in November, from the 14th to the 17th of November in Lisbon, in the Lisbon Congress Center, which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Congress venue in Lisbon. And we hope to see you there this November. And you can find, and this is important, you have the link there, TRA2022. This is the website for the conference. And you can find all this information on the website, all the information about, logistics, where to stay also, where is the conference. So you can find everything on the website for all the more detailed information. As Patrick was mentioning, the conference is divided in 4 main themes because it's a 4-day conference. For each day, we have one main theme. So for day 1, we have smart solutions and society. For day 2, green mobility and decarbonization. Day 3, innovative infrastructures for Europe 2030. And on day 4, policies and economics for a competitive Europe. Patrick already mentioned some examples of what is going to be discussed in each one of these days. And I can also give you now a bit more detail about what we have in each of these themes. So again, if you go on the website, you have the description of each one of these themes. I'm not going to read here now the description of theme 1, smart solutions and society. But for example, we have some sub-themes on the bottom that can also help us get a better idea of what is in each theme. Let me try to drag this to the top. Where is my mouse? I cannot. Sorry. So I'm trying to read in because it's not possible to read there, but I'm not sure if I can do this here. Anyway, I'll try to do it without. So just to give you an idea of the 4 sub-themes, we have user focus and inclusive mobility, connected and automated multimodal mobility, as Patrick has already mentioned, innovative and use of data, ITS and AI, and efficient and innovative logistics. I had a bit of a hard time reading there, but that's it. So for theme 2, just to
And we this week we have published on the website our interactive exhibition floor plan, where again you can check out all the institutions that are already confirmed, those that were in the previous slides and others, and the room that is still available for more entities wanting to take part. During our presentations from earlier from Patrick and Luis, we mentioned demonstrations, and I would draw your attention really to this important part of the conference, because there will be a sort of an interactive area with a live theater where entities that are participating with these demonstrations can pitch the products they are taking, the novelties they are taking, the services they are wanting to promote. So this is really not just about having a stand there and with some flyers, or it's more. It's about inviting participants to be part of the demonstrations, to experience for themselves. So this is really an important asset of this conference. And there's both indoor and outdoor space for these demonstrations to take part. So there will be drones flying, possibly a demonstrator. I don't know if you know, but CCL is located by the river Tagus, so Tejo, as we say in Portuguese. So there's also maybe the possibility of having a water demonstration. So who knows? Come to Lisbon and find out. I'm really about to, close my presentation, but I just would like to let you know that we are, of course, also very grateful to a selection of entities working with us, sponsoring and making this event possible. And they are coming not only from European or other European countries, but also from Portugal. And also we have Tourism Portugal sponsoring us, which is really, really good. So these are the entities, and there are also more that are still negotiating, that are making also this event a reality. And to finalize my presentation, again, we would really love to see you in Lisbon. We would like to invite you all to be part of TRA, because TRA is not, like I said, not just about research and industry and public administration and politics. It's more. It's about each one of us. It's a moment. It's a momentum where discussions are being held, where novelties are being showcased, where startups are able to pitch new business models. So all these concerns are addressed related to transport, to mobility. And this is why we say that TRA is more than just a conference, is an arena, is a forum. And during these 4 days, we will co-create, we will discuss, we will debate with more than 2,000 participants on the future of transport and mobility, not only for the European perspective, but also for the national, but national, not just Portuguese, for each one of the individual that is coming to Portugal with his or her own nationality. And yes, it's an arena of connectivity, of multimodality, of policy, again, of mobilization. So we would like you to be part of this experience of the future of transport and mobility. So we look forward to seeing you in Lisbon, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marta, for the presentation. We open here a second round of question and answers. We have a bit of time. So is there someone, sir, a few minutes ago you wanted to ask a question? Perhaps we start with you.
A very simple question. Have you taken into account the energy crisis that is running now in the elaboration of the program of the, because all the energy crisis is directly connected to transport modes, all transport modes.
Thank you. Indeed, most of the sessions are linked with energy, and especially energy efficiency, so on the use for the transport means. So that's the art of the most of the session, especially when we speak about decarbonization on movements. So
hydrogen.
yes, exactly. Alternative fuels, including hydrogen.
Sorry.
Any other question, Marta?
The point
Please,
about
so that,
startups and pitching and all this, this is going to be a really interesting aspect, isn't it? I think the Oxford clearly want to emphasise that. So I wonder, can you quantify in any way, put any facts, figures on this? You know, what sort of business is you're hoping to generate? Or I know it's not easy.
No.
I know it's not that sort of event where you can it's not a sort of but it's a shop window for, by the sound of it, for young, especially young innovators who are presumably coming from all over Europe. That's not just Portugal.
Yeah.
But if you could give any data and facts figures, it's always helps. So give anything that may relate to that.
I cannot give you a number, as you're saying, because we're still receiving, let's say, applications, but there will be a spot at the conference, and perhaps in the interactive map, you can already see where it's going to be held, that it's dedicated to these startups. So they will be able to there's a sort of a village like the commission, but dedicated to startups. So any startup who still wishes to apply, they can do so, and they are still applying. But we can try to get a number, and we'll let you know about it.
So if I may just add, following on building on what Marta said. Yes, I would say there are two ways for startups to participate. One is just in the exhibition with a startup stand, what Marta was saying, and the other is in the demonstrations. If the startup has already a product, they may want to show it in the demonstration area. Which again, we're still getting, as Marta was saying, we don't have a final number of how many startups. What you're saying, like the impact, this is, again, it's hard to quantify. I think the main goal of TRA is to put people together talking, and yes, it's hard to quantify what was the impact. Of course, like Patrick was saying, maybe some of the things that were demonstrated in TRA 2018 are now accompanied. So we didn't do this follow-up, but and which is, it's not very easy to do, but it's there's for sure an impact, although it's not necessarily very easy to measure. But just to give a note, but yes, startups are important for us, and there's good opportunities for them.
So it'd be useful to know from past editions to say so you can evaluate the success or otherwise, but maybe that aspect of the conference. You know, if you say you were companies was some startups then back then 4 years ago, are now morphed into moved into fully fledged companies. But anyway, that's
yeah, I would say that is not it's not in a way that the role of TRA. You know, the role of TRA is to be kind of a showcase for startups to go there and say this is our product to get more clients. So yes, TRA, I think in a way will help them to get more clients. Of course, the success will depend on many other factors, but for sure it can have a positive impact. Yeah, Sean.
Thanks. Just a very practical question from my side. Just in terms of the press attending, obviously there's a lot of interesting speakers. Is there any opportunity to interview them, speak with them, any kind of press points or press conferences? If not, I'll grab them very copy later.
Well, for this one, I will take over. Yes. So, first of all, I mean, this is a press briefing to release, share information, how it will be both in terms of policy and practical information. We will start now a campaign. We'll contact several journalists, and we will indeed organize a press trip. So I look forward to receiving your articles and to be in touch with you in order to then start a campaign and a selection so that those who would like to be included could apply. So this will happen, press trip. The second point, yes, there will be, because this is a wide conference, there'll be the preparation of an agenda where you need in advance to ask that you would like to meet with this and this speaker. so that we organize slots for the different interviews, one-to-one interviews, because we'll have time. We have 4 days. And we have also the technical tours. So you can't attend all of them. You need to choose. So it is important that we conduct a good prep so that also it fits you well for your editorial line. That seems to be obvious. Any other question? I have 2 questions from a journalist who was following online, but she couldn't continue. So she has 2 questions for you, Patrick. So I'll be the voice of those questions. So the first question is, what is being done to ensure that member states will benefit from a fair investment on sustainable mobility solutions? The second question, can you give us an overview of the current level of sustainable development at member state level? Which countries are leading the transition and which countries are lagging behind?
Thank you. Thank you for the easy questions. In fact, there is no dedication on member state because it's not renewable, but they are all involved. And the idea is really to have a benefit for all stakeholders. So we have tried to be careful, and we don't see the nationalities of the speaker during the sessions, but the idea is to have a wide spectrum of representatives from the different member states. The difficulty is always to have people from the new member states and former new member states. We had the TRA some years ago in Poland, and we have a lot of Polish involvement in the registration. Yeah, we can look at it in more detail. But we did a special efforts to a new member state from the east in particular, and to have all member states involved in that sense. And all of them should benefit from smart mobility, of course. So this is our intention. Something that I can add as well, which is not directly into the question, but there is also an international dimension of TRA. So we intend to invite, in particular, some US and Japanese counterparts. So we'll have bilateral discussion on different aspects. Now that there is a new administration in the US, a bit more easy to discuss greening and decarbonization. And we will have a bilateral meeting. A very high-level speaker will be coming, not to tell you, didn't tell you yet, from the US to discuss these different activities. And we intend to organize some different activities with them during TRA and also with a Japanese counterpart. Who is leading in the transition? I don't want to give names, it's difficult to say. It will be the usual suspects, I would say. This is very linked also with the technology platforms that supports the conference, and where we are the leading industries, the leading sponsors. We have seen as well where they are coming from. I don't want to give names. But the idea is really in all these stakeholders forum, technology platforms, etc., we try to involve all member states. Just to mention one on road transport, which is most close to work I do every day. We intend to have a seminar very soon in Bulgaria, to involve transport stakeholders from this area, because we nearly have no transport stakeholders from Bulgaria. And we intend to invite them to TRA. It's really a thought that we should do at each level to involve indeed all member states. And it's one of the first time that happened in the south of Europe as well, TRA. So I think it's a good opportunity to bring all the southern countries to Portugal. It happens one very often in the north, in Sweden, it happened in France, in Austria, but it have to be happening in Finland, once in Slovenia, when we had a Slovenian commissioner. But it's the first time that happened in the south, so I think it's a unique opportunity to have all the southern countries also very involved, with common practice and needs, I would say.
Thank you. We still have another question.
Sorry.
Thank you. I'm Hashemi from Euromac, it's African and the European media. Have you planned the communication to the African press or Middle East? And have you also some guests from this country or young researcher? Because moving together is good. Europe is part of the world also. And today, if you speak about Dubai, they are really looking about it. And in Africa also. And we have a lot of program between Europe and Africa, and there is or not a space for that.
Just to mention what I know from timing, with Africa, I know there will be a discussion during TRA that I know. It's in the field of transport safety, very important. 5, and especially in Africa, where most of the deaths is the first cause of death in Africa, accident and from road safety. So this is certainly something that we discuss. So there will be a session that I know, which will be road safety with Africa, and we have supported this activity with several transport projects, which are leading by the DG Move, of course, policy. This is one sector where we will work. And indeed, we also intend to, we have some projects will be presented there from Remember Well, where we intend to develop urban mobility aspects, so transported cities, which are very different from, of course, from Europe, but we intend to have the development, for example, of frugal vehicles that could be used not only in Africa, but in developing countries, also matching also the needs of these countries with the support of some European industries. So maybe the two fields where I could see.
And Middle East?
Middle East, not really for the moment, but indeed, there is a company which I think will come, which is very smart, it's come from Mazda, automated vehicles, you know, but it's very high tech, I would say.
Thank you.
Just perhaps to add a point, because in your question, you were inquiring as well the participation from a journalist from an African magazine. So obviously in the framework of this project, we are aiming for pan-European press and specialized press in field of transport. Now, this doesn't mean that we can't consider, so I have to answer this classical question. I'm happy to discuss with you afterwards to get to know your media and to follow up on that, but happy to truly do it. There is another question, please.
Thank you. Vladimir Rogavets from Belarus. I have one question. First question for us, for you, Belarus. It is Europe or not Europe? The second question: can I propose my candidature for select and invite a group of 10 journalists to travel and work in TRA?
Okay, I think I will take this
one.
Very specific.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I am from Belarus. I live here. I am writing my article to Belarusian people.
Sure. I think that, well, applications to go to participate in the press trip, it's something that we can deal afterwards. The point of the press briefing now is talk about content and to understand how it will work. So nothing wrong with Belarusia. So if you'd like to talk with me afterwards about what you do, to what media you write, by all means, I'm here. So I don't know if there is any other question. So if there is, and we are right on time because it's 3 p.m. So it was really 1 hour. So that's fantastic. So thank you very much to all of you, Marta, Luis, and Patrick. We look forward to be in touch with you to receive your pieces. If you need any information from our side, let us know. We have pictures, visuals, and press release as well ready with already approved quotes. So you are free to use them in order to release your pieces. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.